Well, we're just awaiting the start of a crucial encounter between England and South Africa. But for the moment, it's a conclusion to Australia West Indies going along expected lines. The amount of runs put on by the West Indies just not enough, and Australia making it with overs to spare, just under 4 overs. What that means for the net run rate, we'll bring you in a few minutes' time, and what South Africa's target will be as to how much they need to beat England by in order to qualify for the semi-finals. 157 for 7 plays 161 for 2. The good news for Australia, 89 not out of 56. David Warner, after captain Aaron Finch departed early. Mitchell Marsh also showing 53 of 32, that he slotted nicely into that number 3 slot. Here we are on Cricbuzz Live, looking back at Australia West Indies, looking ahead to South Africa's mountain. How high a mountain that's going to be? Is it going to be higher than their famed Table Mountain? We shall find out in a few moments. For now, let's look back at Australia West Indies with Dinesh Karthik and Zaheer Khan. Zach, we mentioned at the halfway point, it was smooth sailing on the highway. The question was when and not if they completed the job.
Well, they just increased the speed, isn't it? so I think it was a very, very easy sailing for them. Warner, superb. Tried few different shots as well against Bravo, even though it was his last game here today. But he did try to answer those with the reverse. Well, you can't really call it a reverse sweep, isn't it? It's when you play it against fast bowlers, so you have to come up with a good name now for that. The lefty shot, as we can call it now, but convincing. That's the only word. Shows again that how good Australia bowlers were on this track. The wicket was really good to bat on, and it showed when Australia was batting. So for West Indies to look back and say that, okay, we were 20-25 runs short. That's what we are talking about. But I think even though they had got those runs, we're not sure, with this bowling attack, would they have been able to defend that kind of a total, because the wicket did look good. Add to that Warner's form, I think it was not going to be easy for West Indies to win this game. But Australia, I think they will be breathing easy right now. It's as you put it out there, it's a mountain to climb for South Africa. And we've seen also, how pressure works with South African teams. So I think Australia will be very, very happy at this stage. They've done what they had in hand. They controlled the things which they could control, sitting pretty at number 2 at this point on table, and enjoy. They will definitely enjoy watching the next game as well. Like South Africa, how they were looking at Australia, I'm sure Australia also going to watch that game closely.
Yes, convincing, clinical, commanding, choose whichever word you like. It was a very different Australia, DK, from the one that played against England. So they will feel good about the fact that they've had their little low in the tournament, and now they seem to be just heading in an upward direction.
Yes, I think so. I think the first match against South Africa, they were a touch rusty. In many ways, in 5 games that they've played the same 11 for 4. Just that one England game, they dropped Mitchell Marsh and bought an Ashton Agar in, which clearly says that they need a Mitchell Marsh there. And today you saw his value. I think he bowled well. When he came out to bat, he batted with intent. It's very interesting, actually. Sometimes, they say give a player a long run. Sometimes it's okay to drop him. I think that that gets the fire burning in the belly for that player as well. I think for Mitchell Marsh, maybe that worked, because now that he's come back, both the innings, he's looked solid. He's got runs. It's a very, Zach will tell you he's now, part of a franchisee and a mentor at that. So sometimes you have to weigh those things. Another immediate example that comes to my mind is Ishan Kishan. He was batting in the middle order, didn't get as many runs. But when he came back as an opener after being dropped for just one game, he was a different player. Sometimes that fire needs to be ignited. And that could mean, as an administration, you have to take that bitter pill sometimes. And for Mitchell Marsh, I think Australia did that. He's come back all guns blazing. And it's really good to see him. Yes, David Warner, for me, David Warner is the best batter in Australia by a distance in this format. I think he plays shots all around the wicket. He's very hard to bowl to. And, he has the potential to cut and pull. And most importantly, if you bowl anything full, he goes over the top. So they look a very formidable side with the top order. And they have a Maxwell who's not even batted today. So overall, a very clinical, a thorough performance by them.
Yeah, fair parallel, Zach. From the outside, that's what analysts were looking at. That Ishan Kishan just got pushed out for a bit, came back in, and he looked a completely different player.
Well, I think when you're looking at Mitchell Marsh, and what DK was also trying to say is that that communication channel has to be very, very open. You have to let the player know that what the team is expecting of him, what kind of role you want a particular batter to play. At times, you have to change the role. At times, some people are batting out of position. So for them to adapt to that, what are the kind of things required, to identifying also, what is the best position for an individual. So all these, it's like a very complex kind of a system, isn't it, with every individual, and figuring out the comfort zone for each and every individual. So as administrative, or as support staff, I've always felt that you cannot be fair to each and every individual in that squad. But what you can do is have that open communication and honest communication, which not only helps the player also, but also it helps you also as management, to have a goal clear cut defined for everyone to know that where exactly they stand, where they need to improve, or when things are going well. Actually, you don't at times feel the need of putting things out there. But I feel even when things are going well, you need to highlight and recognize those kind of things.
Now, it's not often that when a team bows out of a tournament, when a team loses a match, they tend to be the team in focus. But that's sort of what happened between Australia and the West Indies. The reason being guard of honor given by the Australian team to the two outgoing legends. Nothing's obviously been said officially on paper, at least not from Christopher Henry Gale. But with the exit, when Gale walked off with the bat, with the reaction when he took a wicket in his last over, he was almost denied a wicket with a stumping miss. The delight was like a 16-year-old getting his first ever wicket. It was his last wicket in T20 internationals, and one that Gale will remember. It's certainly the end of an era, but DK, it's wonderful that they should take center stage, even in a losing cause, to know that they're handing over the reins, hopefully to another young, sparky generation that they left behind.
Oh, I think, we keep talking about heroes and inspiration being the word thrown around. And I think both these cricketers are inspiration to a lot of cricketers around the world. They've redefined the way T20 is played. Definitely Christopher Henry Gale. For a lot of the batters, even Shane Watson on air was talking about how, he changed the batting style, looking at, Chris Gale a lot. His power batting in the power play, the way he played, changed after watching Chris Gale, and consistency with which he was, batting. I remember in that IPL when he came back, he was not picked in the auction in the fourth year. He was not picked in that auction, and he was a replacement player for Dirk Nannes for RCB. And he came back. Kolkata Knight Riders had let him go. He came back, and the first game against KKR, he scored an outstanding 100. Literally, they couldn't bowl to him. I mean, sometimes when he gets angry, it's a great sight. Actually, I remember the Champions Trophy. I think it was in Brabant Stadium, CCI, when they played Australia. Single-handedly with the bat, and to an extent with the ball as well, he helped Australia win that game. Some of those memories with Chris Gale stays a very long time. And the team that has got him angry the most over a period of time by a distance is Australia. Today, it was great to see him pick up that wicket, go hug a Mitchell Marsh. And, the energy, the pictures that you saw on TV was so nice. And, I do think that we'll miss a very colorful personality, him batting with those glasses. He set trends, which is very different to what other batters did, even with the skill and a lot of times with his appearance as well. Fantastic. Having a badge sticker with the name Universe Boss on it. I don't know how many people can even do that. It's a very different personality. And, I played a couple of years with him in RCB as well. What a lovely guy. I mean, genuinely a very nice guy, looks out for you. And to be honest, I think Zach knows a lot more of him personally because, they must have interacted a lot more, and a thorough professional as well.
Zach, obviously, cricketing memories are one thing. I mean, the stamp of authority he has when he comes out with that big bat in his hand. But memories from off the field, the personality, what's the one thing a Chris Gale will leave you with as he walks into the sunset?
Well, the one word is entertainer. So he's lived by that, not only on the field but off the field. You've seen after he got Mitch Marsh out also how he celebrated that wicket. Not only the celebration but also going and hugging him as well, saying that okay, it's just my excitement, nothing to do with you. So he's always been that kind of a personality. Very helpful. I remember when he was hitting all those sixes. in Chinnaswamy Stadium playing for RCB. Consistently, there was a phase, where if he's leaving the ball, people used to think that, oh, he's leaving the ball. That means he's watching the ball very closely. Today is going to be a tough day. And when he's going to start hitting from ball one, you used to say, oh, he's hitting from ball one in today's match. So, now you know what's coming. So the Gale Storm, as he got, he's got plenty of nicknames also with just by what he's achieved on the field. But a soft side, I would say that when he was hitting those sixes, at times people were getting hurt as well, and there were few instances like that. And I'll tell you a story that he actually went and met those guys in the hospital. So that's the kind of personality Gale is. Entertainer, thorough entertainer, but a guy with a very soft heart and soft and kind heart. With his actions, you'll always know off the field that he cares for everyone.
Certainly does. We remember that. I think it was a young girl who got hit and he went and visited her in the hospital. And then there were banners in the next match. Come and hit me. I'm waiting. I want to meet you up close. So he just has an impact, and it's certainly going to be the calm after the Gale Storm as far as T20 international and all cricket really is concerned. Let's quickly get back to the match, and maybe we'll finish off the show with a quick word about the other legend who's going into the sunset, DJ Bravo, because we need to remember that there's some serious business and at hand. England versus South Africa, not good for South Africa on two fronts. One, Australia have won and won convincingly. Two, they would have preferred to chase because it looked like a slightly more sensible equation chasing. Now, the bad news for them, England win the toss, have put South Africa into bat first. The rough equation is, if South Africa were to score 150, DK, England would need to be bowled out for 88 in order for them to then qualify. It won't dent England's chances, but South Africa have a tough task ahead.
Just by the way you said it, you and I both know it's going to be a real tall ask for them. In many ways, I feel the pressure is reduced. I think South Africa know at this point, it might be really hard for them to win this game by the distance that's required. So that eases a lot of pressure. If they had to win by 14 runs or 18 runs, then that's a completely different amount of pressure that you'd be feeling for every batter and every ball that you bowl. Now they know it's a long shot. In many ways, it's going to be really hard, considering that England is playing some real quality cricket with some gun batters and some really informed bowlers as well. So I think, a little bit of pressure, a monkey off the back in many ways for South Africa. But the question is, one thing for sure from South Africa, they'll fight hard, which is what they've done in this tournament. They're definitely not the best team on paper. When you saw the team at the start of the competition, you never gave them a chance in this group, considering it was called the group of death. They were probably the least favorites. Bangladesh had a better chance than them, but still they have come to a stage where they are fighting for a place in the semis, and that will keep their cricket in good health and good stead. And definitely Cricket South Africa needs it at the moment with the amount of things that's happening back home. They definitely need this. I genuinely wish they put up a good fight, and I think they'll be really proud. South Africa as a country will be really proud with the way they have played so far in this tournament.
Well, the one thing they do have, unlike the West Indies, is some impact bowlers, Zaheer. They're playing with an unchanged side, so they know if their batters were to give them, let's say, 175, 180, at least, as I said, unlike the West Indies, they've got the firepower of Rabada and Nokia. Dwayne Pretorius is bowling really well. They've got a bit of mystery spin almost with Tabraiz Shamsi. So a few items in there, in the cupboard that can actually do some damage.
Yes, bowling has been the strength in this tournament. Shamshi adds that complementing side also, which we're talking about Australian attack. Where they have pacers and they have Zampa to complement that. Similarly, they have the wrist spin of Shamsi. We've seen Chinaman also having that kind of impact on this format. So that has certainly been their strength. You look at the wickets also here. What you're showing, it's exactly what England wickets lost in this tournament for spin. The number is high, so it's just basically the tactic may work in favor of South Africa with that regard. What we'll have to wait and see is that margin. When you're talking about 150 runs, they have to score if they bat first and then get England out at 88. I think that's going to be a tough ask, right? England has not been challenged so far in this tournament. So when you're batting first, clearly your focus shifts to 150 is not going to be enough. You have to look at that bigger total, and for them to achieve that, there's only one guy at the top who can really take on bowling, and that's Quentin Decock. So I think from today's game point of view, and for South Africa to have chances, they need that opening partnership. So Reza Hendrick and Quentin Decock need to really set that tone. Rassie van der Dusen, we've seen, can be destructive with the bat. So they need all the batters to fire, create that platform, but they have the bowling resources to be able to contain any team at a low total if they have things going for them. So Rabada not here. So from South Africa's point of view, they need to have a perfect game, isn't it? They need to bat really well and then come back and defend that total. With England's approach, it's not a bad thing because England is not going to change that approach. So that gives you opportunity of picking wickets. It's just that things have to fall in place for South Africa in this game, and a lot has to go their way.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. The last point that Zaheer made, DK, is that England have shown, Owen Morgan's always been clear about that. We're going to go hard and we're going to be consistent about that. When they're batting first, obviously they say that we wouldn't mind being bowled out if we've got X number of runs on the board. Here, it's a slightly different scenario, but their approach will not change. So South Africa maybe can look to take advantage of that.
Yeah, the one thing from Owen Morgan is that he is only worried about England and how they can win. He's not really going to be worried whether Australia is going to qualify or South Africa is going to qualify. Because if he really wanted to, I mean, when he had won the toss, he would have said, okay, let us challenge ourselves and, bat first and try and bowl again with the dew. Maybe that will be useful for us going into the semis. But he didn't do that. He wants to win every game of cricket that is played, play the best team. You can see the change that he's made as well. Mark Wood in for Tymal Mills tells me that, they're going in with their best 11, their strongest 11. So the attitude for Owen Morgan is very, very simple. Win every game of cricket that we play, and that will keep us in good stead. And fair enough. And I think that's how he's led KKR as well when I've been there. And his attitude is, in many ways, very hardened. Coming from an Irish background, you can see where the toughness comes. And it's just good to see him as a leader. And I think one of the main reasons why England have been so consistent in these multi-nation tournaments for a long time has been Owen Morgan, and the credit should go to ECB and the rest of the support staff for having a very strong team over a period of time in white ball cricket. And answering to you, I think it definitely gives South Africa a good opportunity to definitely exploit England, because they are going to come in hard. And if they can put up a good performance against them, irrespective of whether they're able to win the match with the required run rate, they definitely go home happy knowing that they've beaten an England, and that will definitely, like Sri Lanka, give them a lot of confidence going into Australia for the T20 World Cup next year.
Yeah, let's not forget Sri Lanka were out of the tournament when they finished with that convincing win. So certainly enough to play for from South Africa's perspective. But given, Zaheer, that you mentioned the start they'd need from a Quentin Decock and a Reza Hendricks, what will work against them is that England's number one asset in this tournament, along with, of course, the likes of Jos Buttler, is taking wickets in the power play. That's what they've done consistently, and South Africa will have to buck that trend if they are to try and put maybe 170, 180 on the board, because 70 pretty much has to be that victory margin.
Yes, for sure. And also at times, in games like this, when you know that the other team has already won, you got nothing to lose. If you approach the game that way, then the pressure factor becomes less effective. So I think that should be the approach. And yes, Moeen Ali will be bowling with that new ball for sure for England. They've been using that tactic. Then you have Adil Rashid also, who is in form. So England, there is no doubt, without Ben Stokes and Jofra have been so good in this tournament, not been challenged so far. That also shows that what kind of strength England has and what kind of processes and protocols they've set now the years in white ball cricket, which has given them an opportunity to create a brand of cricket, which the other teams also going to definitely look at it as a case study for sure, because their consistency in tournaments like all the ICC tournaments has been phenomenal. So that is something which they will take a lot of pride in. They have a very balanced bowling attack as well. Mark Wood coming back in, I think it was a very, very well thought through World Cup for them. He was not fully fit. They've rested him enough. Now they know that it's just the last game before we get into the knockout stage. So it's important that he gets a game time. So I think they've been using their resources, and there is a lot of planning and thought process involved around how to utilize their resources, how to identify players and their backups as well, so that every time they go out there, like DK was saying, you put out a team to win a match, and every game you look to win. There are no experiments. There are no shortcuts around there, and no taking it easy. So that is something which is a clear signal of how they've been approaching with their strategies and playing 11, what we've been seeing.
Yeah, they certainly have. Every game that England played, we'd get an update on Mark Wood and how he's progressing. And now it almost seems like a seamless transition. We saw Mills limp off the other day, couldn't complete the game. And it was perfect timing for England, DK, that Mark Wood was fit around the same time. So everything's sort of working in their favor. The graphics we saw, 2010, they were champions in the West Indies. 2016, of course, was the Ben Stokes heartbreak in the last over. But both tournaments that England looked outstanding. 2016 too, they should have won had it not been for Brathwaite.
Oh, we see the stats of 2016. Obviously, they played a very strong tournament. They played a better tournament than West Indies. West Indies were just good at the back end, with the dew helping them a little bit, and a certain Carlos Brathwaite coming and playing an absolute blinder on the last over. They were well in control of that game, and they were doing really well. 2017, they were semi-finalists at the Champions Trophy. 2019, they won the World Cup. So every multi-nation tournament, they are there. They're saying, they put their hand up and say, we're here to play a certain brand of cricket, and that is to win every match that we play. And they played some really good white ball cricket. And hence, you see, in my books at least, I feel before they used to be for IPL at least, for a lot of players from Australia. But nowadays, you see a lot of players from England come in and do really well. And the representations from England has increased tremendously in the last 3 to 4 years compared to what it was before. Goes to show the strength of their white ball cricket and why they have improved so much. And that also credit to Andrew Strauss and Owen Morgan at that stage to take the decision to allow the players to go and compete in an IPL, which has obviously helped their cricket and helped the health of their white ball cricket, which is there for everyone to see. And they seem to be dominating it in every World Cup in the last 3 years.
Now let's try and get a little insight on Quentin Decock from someone, again, who knows him really well. We know with the ball coming onto the bat, he can be extremely destructive. If there's a little chink in the armour, Zaheer, it's always been against the slower bowlers. And I'm sure England will know that. They'll probably throw a bit of Moeen Ali at him. You never know, maybe even Adil Rashid. What is his kind of approach to counter something like that?
Well, I mean, it's an open secret, I would say, that off spinner and Quentin Decock, that matchup is always seen in matches. So yeah, in today's game as well, I feel Moeen Ali will be opening. There's no doubt about it. But as far as Quentin Decock is concerned, he's very positive in his approach. That one thing stands out very brightly with him. He's going to look to take the game on from word go. So that is something which has been the highlight of his career, the highlight of his batting. So that approach is definitely going to remain. Yes, off spin coming on with the new ball at times, GB, it becomes easier as well. There's not much of a grip, so you have to see what kind of surface he's playing on. If there's a grip in the wicket, then obviously things will be tough for him. But if the wicket is nice and the ball is coming onto the bat, then I think that may not be that much of a factor. But he's someone who's definitely going to look to put pressure on the bowlers right from word go.
Just want to quickly bring up that South African lineup and get DK's opinion on whether there's a possibility. Now, we talked about certain players coming into form at the right time. David Miller, the vintage David Miller, is someone who can score 100. Now, we've seen him do that in the IPL. Is there a case, depending on how the situation is, because they need to put big runs on the board, to have him padded up and maybe just push him up in the order a little bit?
I don't want to be too blunt, but I don't see it happening, and I wouldn't let it happen if I was in the South African team, simply because David Miller has got the 100 in IPL and, in all fairness, not got too much, before and after that. Also, the fact that he's not a great player against wrist spin. He doesn't pick spin very well, and they have an Adil Rashid to bowl through the middle, so that will make it even tougher. and the fact that Rassie van der Dussen and Mark Rim have batted brilliantly for South Africa, even in Sri Lanka and in this World Cup. If they are where they are today, a lot of credit must be given to Aiden Markram because he's been their standout batsman in these matches. Rassie van der Dussen obviously has taken the pressure on and sometimes played a runner ball, but done well for South Africa. He's been their best batter. In fact, he's batted better than Quinton also in the World Cup so far. So if Quinton fires, it's great, but I don't see a David Miller coming ahead. And I feel their batting order will be the same. They'll send in David Miller once Rashid's spell is done. Then there's a good chance that he can be way more effective than if he comes in when Adil Rashid is bowling.
Fair point. I think that that illustrates it excellently in terms of what his role is. But one of the surprise packages, Zaheer, and we discussed it the other day, we always talk about the impact of Markram and what he did in the IPL. Van der Dussen missing in a few franchise tournaments, but he's there as an anchor. Temba Bavuma has been a bit of a surprise package. Yes, he's the captain of the side, but generally not referred to as what are the runs he'll contribute. This time he has been making contributions.
Absolutely, and that number 3 position also in this format is very, very critical. You have to keep that tempo going, and that's something which Bahuma was able to do. He's a short little guy, who goes on the back foot easily, so can actually, those kind of players can really make bowlers suffer for their lengths. You have to really quickly adapt and adjust to the lengths. Otherwise, they can you can really pay a price for that. So that is something which we have to wait and see. But his approach has been good. He wants to keep up with the tempo of the game. Looks to play those pull shots, the shots of the back foot. That's something which has been his strength. And captaincy also has helped him. So that is something which I feel has seen right through this tournament. When you're looking at the things which are going in the background, you need a strong personality as a captain, and I think he's handled it very well. With the pressures of the external factors, and then leading the side and bringing out the performance. You've seen the intent from the bowler and the energy which someone like Rabada, Nokia, everyone were bringing in, and keeping the unit tight and strong. So that is something you have to give him full marks for the way he has handled this whole World Cup, not only just on the field, but how he's approached the scenario which was happening around it as well.
Yeah, that's the key word. He keeps the tempo going, or if you like, he keeps the temba going. That's the way he likes to approach it. But DK, impressed with Bavuma as a leader as much as a batter in this time. Lots happening around him.
I was just going to say, I think, what Zach said on the field, absolutely brilliant. I think he's been one of the positives, his leadership on the field. But what I admire him really for, when the Quentin Decock episode happened, the way he handled it and the way he backed Quentin Decock says a lot about him as a personality. The Black Lives Matter is a very important part of their culture, and especially coming from an African nation, it's been an issue for some time. But the way he handled it and the way he backed the Quentin Decock was brilliant. And I think that is how you win the trust of players. And, I'm very sure that Quentin Decock will be very, very grateful to what Temba Bavuma had to say after that after the post-match conference. So these are the small things where you show your qualities as a leader, and it was really good to see him do what he did for Quentin Decock. And I'm sure, there are so many other things which we wouldn't know, but that's happening behind the scenes, where he's backing various players at various points of time. He's led the team really well tactically. He's been really good, very astute, and his batting has been good. He's been very effective, let's put it that way. I think even though his knocks have been small and crisp, I think he's made it count when South Africa have needed them. And today they're going to be needing him the most.
They certainly will. I must confess, we were on the show when the whole Quentin Decock saga developed, and early days reactions coming in were, will he play for South Africa again? Will he don that jersey again? And I think Temba Bavuma and the management made sure that despite his stand, it was publicly sort of demonstrated that they were behind him. But let's look at the numbers that matter right now in the two groups. The 2 points tables, two very contrasting groups. One, of course, we've been referring to as the group of death, which is this one, and lots and lots of competition. Sri Lanka with 4 points have finished their campaign. South Africa could actually win the game today, win it by a normal margin, end up on 8 points and not qualify. That just shows the competitive nature in this group. And if we have a look at the other group, which is India's group, Group 2, And that shows a slightly different picture there. Obviously, there's no question of 8. Pakistan likely to get to 10. They're playing Scotland in their last game, and then you'll have a bit of a log jam, or a possibility of a log jam, with 3 teams on 6. That's provided Afghanistan can get over New Zealand. And then the fun and games will begin with the calculators. Though with what India did against Scotland and with the game coming up against Namibia to finish, India would be hot favourites to not even be considered to anyone coming close to their net run rate. But that is for another day. Just one quick word, gentlemen, on, as we promised, DJ Bravo. One memory from each of you. We talked a lot about Christopher Henry Gale. Bravo, the quieter of the two, relatively speaking. But of course, the champion dance was in full impact at the ground, as expected for him. TK?
As I said, the only time you get annoyed looking at that is if you're the batsman who's gotten out. Otherwise, you generally tend to enjoy it. We speak a lot about Chris Gale, and he's a great player. He's a legend, yes, no doubt. But the person who's actually won a lot of tournaments, especially franchises and various tournaments in T20 and T10, is Dwayne Bravo. He's been an exceptional leader for them, be it Trinbago Knight Riders or the T10 tournament or the IPL for that matter for CSK. I think he's won way more tournaments. I think the count and the fight is between him and Pollard. They keep calling out each other on social media. Each of them are upwards of 10, which shows that, obviously he's been a very key player and he's captained a lot of it. And we all remember him for his champion dance. The fact that he releases a song every year, sometimes it's not the best of songs, but for some strange reason, he keeps going at it. And that's how they make fun of him in that part of the world as well. But all things said and done, I think, he's a great player. My favorite memory of him was it was in an airport, actually. It was in an airport when we were just boarding a flight, and he was there. And then some random person, obviously in the airport, asked him, "Hey, Brav, can you dance for us?" And he immediately did the champion dance there as well. It was about pretty irritating time because we had just woken up. We were just taking a flight. It was about around 11:30 in the morning, which is very early by IPL standards. But he still did it for that person, and he had a smile and a laugh, and that tells you the personality he is. And he's a very warm guy, and I genuinely like him personally for being a very, very nice and a very humble guy.
Yeah, I just feel it's a pity because the other day on the show, we were discussing the fact that they had a fabulous, very catchy song for this particular tournament where they were obviously looking at a possible third title. And unfortunately, the song will never make it to the top of the charts because of the fact that West Indies have exited. But hopefully everyone will still get to hear it. In case you guys haven't heard it, I'll send you a little sneak preview of that. Zaheer, quick memory of you, of DJ Bravo?
Well, I would say great guy, great teammate, great personality to have in the dressing room. His energy is very contagious, and that not only stays on the field with his dancing moves and all that too, it carries on in the dressing room as well. So 2010, we were part of the same team playing for the same franchisee, Mumbai Indians, and we had a great year. Every time we used to have a dressing room gathering after the game. There used to be dances, and the dances used to be initiated by none other than Dwayne Bravo. So he's a great guy, great competitor on the field, and great energy to have him around in the dressing room, because it's his nature, it's his optimism, which keeps the whole environment alive.
Yeah, let's not forget, just before this particular tournament, he went and led a completely different franchise. Imagine, as a person who's as Trinidadian, proud Trinidadian that he is, left TKR, went to the Patriots from St. Kitts and led them to the CPL title. And a lot of credit. Runs may have come from Evan Lewis, runs may have come from Chris Gale, but DJ Bravo's leadership went a long way for them winning the CPL. Well, as expected, Moeen Ali has actually come in to try and remove Quentin Decock early. What's left on our show is to try and get a prediction. If we were on South Africa's side, we'd probably say 200, in which case England need to be restricted to 130. How high can we go, DK?
Yeah, I still think they'll be only around 150.
Fair enough, 150. That's the theoretical score we put out, which means 150 minus 70 would be around 80 something. Zaheer, can they get higher than that?
My number has been 180 today.
Again, 180. Fair enough. Oh, wow. We wish they can get to 180, because at least it'll give them England a chance to get to 100 and still possibly fall behind. But yeah, tough task ahead. Really tough task ahead for South Africa. But it's not just about trying to qualify for the semis. If they can finish with a win, still be a lot of good for South African cricket. Again, with that huge gap left, I'll have to get in between somewhere. 163. 163 for me. Last time around, it did pretty well, thanks to Andre Russell. Dinesh Karthik was sitting pretty with the win, 2 sixes, and it switched over. South Africa put into bat by England, everything to play for. Otherwise, it's going to be Australia and England in the semi-finals from the group of death. We'll see you in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, from Zaheer, Dinesh Karthik, and myself, it's goodbye.